The Comfortably Zoned Radio Network presents Weighted Donuts with your hosts Wayne Unger and Craig Steer.
Hello, everybody. I'm Ralph Tycho with the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, and I have the pleasure tonight of introducing one of my favorite shows on the network, Weighted Donuts. And the host is Wayne Unger. His co-host is Mr. Spear. And he's not here, Craig Spear. But Wayne is. So, Wayne, take it away.
All right. How you doing, Ralph? Ralph, I just want you to know that you just killed somebody named Spear, okay?
All right, let's do the whole fucking thing over. How about that?
No, I don't want to do it over. I want everybody to hear the story because it's New Year's Eve and everybody should hear the story. So,
all right. Craig's
name is Steer, S-T, okay? Now, yes, so, and you said Spear, but Mark, you got to hear this story. You got to hear this story.
You can tell me yes, Mark Littell, country.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Everybody, we have Mark Littell with us. We hope to have more coming along. Mark, how you doing?
John
Happy New Year. John D'Acquisto, and we have John D'Acquisto. Hey, John, Happy New Year.
Fastball John. How are you, John?
There we go. So, all right. I'm going to tell John, I don't know if you missed it, but Ralph mispronounced Craig Steer's name and called him Mr. Spear. And the last time Ralph mispronounced somebody's name or called them by a different name, it didn't turn out too well. We had Dan Zimborski of ESPN on, and Ralph was asking him about his influences and how he got into the whole sabermetric thing. And he mentioned a guy named Ron Chandler, who writes a lot of fantasy baseball books. And Ralph kept calling him Gary Shandling. And unfortunately for Mr. Shandling, the next day
he wasn't there.
He was no longer with us. So somebody named. Yes.
Ron Chandler's
somebody
an incredible fantasy baseball expert. He got me through here. One of his books got me through as close as I ever got to winning a fantasy league championship. So if Gary Shandling, who was a terrific comedian and a very, very big talent, if he can't be here, at least Ron Chandler can. And we find straight.
But tomorrow we're going to have to check the obituaries to see if somebody named Spear passed away.
Oh, God forbid it be Craig. My God,
No. Spear, not Spear. You see, the person who you mispronounced is going to go, not the person who was originally intended. So
are we steering away from that then?
Hey, let me ask you. Have your paths, Mark Littell and Johnny D'Acquisto, have your paths crossed over the course of your baseball careers?
Yeah, a bit, you might say. Probably about 4 inches or so.
About 4 times, you know.
Yeah,
all right.
About right. About 4 axe handles. Over there.
What can you say about those times? What was your favorite time facing each other?
Well, I don't think we ever really faced each other because he was in the American League at the time. And,
right.
You know, so I was in the National League, so we really didn't face each other, ever, to be honest with you. But, he lives where I live. So, in Phoenix, I don't know unless he's back in Missouri again. But you know, we've come across each other's paths, and we kind of do the same thing here in Phoenix. You know, helping kids out and teaching them how to play the game, and and also, me working with MLB right now, and that's crossing that, direction a couple of times. So,
John, I recently had Pete Falcone on, and he was so complimentary and thankful for you helping him get the job with MLB. And what a terrific guy.
Yeah, Pete's a good guy.
So, Pete, both of you guys, you have books out. John, yours came out in September. It's called Fastball John, and Mark's, yours came out this past month, and it's called On the Eighth Day, God Made Baseball. So let's do this in alphabetical order with the last name. So John, you go first. Tell us a little bit about your book, and maybe give us a little.
Well, it's a story. My book is more of it's a story about a man who happened to be a ball player. We tended to tell the story of what and how I got to the big leagues through the minor league system, and how I obtained and stayed in the big leagues for about 10 years. And then what happened to me in my post-career, and how I was able to battle that and come back. And we did it all forthright in the most way that we knew, which worked out pretty good. And it's been a very popular book out there so far, and people are enjoying it, and I hope they continue to enjoy it. It's a different story.
I'll ask you one question. Is there anything in the book that you wish you would have put in, and is there anything in the book that you wish you would have left out?
No, nothing at all. Nothing at all. It took 4.5 years to compile it and put it together, and there were things that, we actually thought out at length.
Right. And who did you work with for the book, John? Who's your co-author? Am I gone?
Oh, I think he's break. No, you're not gone. Maybe he is. Mark, are you still with us?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you loud and clear here.
Okay, yeah, I think we lost him.
No,
he was.
Oh,
yes. Okay, I don't hear him. He was fading in and out on me.
Okay.
But I believe the answer to that question is David Jordan.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And how did your working relationship get started, John?
Well, I started doing a blog, writing a blog on In-Stream Sports out of New York. And I started telling little anecdotal stories, short stories, and it gained popularity. And at that particular point in the popularity, people were asking, well, why don't you write a book? And it continued to grow, and the popularity of the anecdotal stories continued to grow. So we decided to put a book. I already had a book put together. I just had to put it into a formal format. And so I got with David and the people at In-Stream Sports, and we decided to go ahead with the project. And it took us 4.5 years of long nights and many a cocktail and talking about certain things. But what we did that was really interesting was we put music to every chapter. And as we went through the chronological order of the book, we put the music to it that was playing at the time that was going on when these certain things would happen in the book.
Oh, wow.
And it kind of gave it a different flair and a different taste than other books.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. And it helped give it a timeline as well.
Oh, give it a great timeline. Yes. The timeline was set, that was the hardest part of the book. And the second hardest part of the book was doing the index and putting an index together and naming everybody that was in the book. So it worked out. That's a lot of times, a lot of people don't put indexes in the book, in books. And we decided to do that to give people an extra feel and touch.
Absolutely makes it professional. And
yeah, exactly.
John, we've talked over the years a number of times, and I feel as close to you as any guest that I've had. You are just so open and terrific. We've never talked about your comeback, about your adversity after the game. I'm not so much interested in the circumstances of your transgressions because we're human. Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone goes through things they shouldn't have. Mm-hmm. I'm concerned about who were the people in baseball who were there for you thick and thin, and because you were you, and who, on the other hand, disappointed you in a way that you could only be disappointed when you needed a friend the most, and you thought they were, and they weren't.
Well, basically, most of the guys that I played ball with were there for me all the time, concerned about me, keeping in touch. Most of the hierarchy.
Did you fade again, John?
I lost him.
Okay. Well, let's take a timeout for a second and switch gears and talk to Country. How'd you get your nickname, Country?
Well, that was kind of a funny thing that happened out on the field the very first day after batting practice. And it's part of the book. And Joe Flash Gordon and Spider Jorgensen, they were rovers at the time. And, you know, Joe's a Hall of Fame guy, and Spider is Spider, and he's been around a few things. And the guy that signed me was Gary Blaylock. He was the manager. And there's 5 high school guys on the team, and the rest of them were all college guys. And they were pretty much all Californians because we were in the Pioneer League, and I kind of wanted to go to Billings, and Gary said, well, hey, Mark, if you want to go up to Billings, that's fine. He said, I'd be glad to have you up there. And I think he wanted to help me out and protect me a little bit since he did sign me. And so anyway, I'm out there, you know, watching this whole thing go on for batting practice. And I'd never thrown batting practice before because I grew up out in this country, and you know, all we did was just throw a bullpen and, you know, pretty much go right at them. And then, you know, played some Legion ball, but I never threw batting practice. We never had L screens or anything of that nature, from where I came from. So I was trying to, you know, catch on to this batting practice thing and this L screen with this net in it. And, so I went down to warm up. It was on the second day, and I was pitching about 5th, I guess, that day. So I run out the mound, and, you know, the catcher, this guy named Craig Perkins out of USC, who was going to do most of the catching. And, you know, we were just, you know, going to throw the hitters. And so, you know, Flash, Joe Gordon was back there, and Spider, and Blaylock, and everybody. There was a whole bunch of people actually there watching. And so when I stepped up there, I said, well, screw you. I'm going to get your ass out, you know. So I just kind of, you know, let it slide. You know, about the 7th pitch, Blaylock comes running out there. He says, God damn it, he says, this is fucking batting practice. And I said, oh, okay. I said, and he said, well, you know, they're supposed to hit the damn ball. I said, well, okay, all right. So I, you know, dropped a little speed in there, and, you know, and so all of a sudden, you know, I couldn't hit anything where, you know, I fell out of rhythm. And sure enough, I see this guy go down there, and, you know, he goes trotting down first base, and I had noticed this the whole time for the, you know, pretty much almost 2 days now, that this guy goes down to first base and he gets a lead. Well, what happens was Blaylock, he yells out, he says, out of the stretch. And I said, oh, okay. So I went out of the stretch, and I said, well, if this sucker gets off far enough, I'm going to pick his ass off. Well, the first baseman is Dave Landers from UCLA, and he's sitting there taking throws from the shortstop, and well, sure enough, this guy gets a pretty good lead, and I said, well, hell, I'm going to pick you off. So I threw over there, and about the time he was getting the ball from the shortstop, one went right by his head. And So and Lander's pretty much, squats at his knees, and all of a sudden he drops his glove and goes walking off the field. Everybody on the field's just laughing their asses off because I threw over, on a guy just getting a normal lead right there just to practice his lead when it leads and breaks. So, I come out the next day and Joe Gordon says, "Where is that country boy? I kind of like him. Get him over here. I want to talk to him." So, so I guess everybody recovered, and I was trying to cheer Dave up a couple times with that old UCLA, rah cheer, and that didn't work. So, but it was fun. I was real raw. The book I wrote is pretty much from age 6 on, and my dad was a Marine. He couldn't play catch with me because he got shot all to hell in Korea, and his arm got hit by a Czechoslovakian-made burp gun, and then he got hit by shrapnel. And my mother was carrying me for 3 months, and she was an RN, and so he wasn't long in Korea, but he tried to play catch with me one time, and it just was way too much pain because he had a brace on his right arm pretty much all of his life. He did. And so my brother came along. He was a year younger. He ended up catching me. And so I was the pitcher. Eric was the catcher. And so when I went up to the ballpark for the first time, my mom said, we're talking about hitting. I mean, there was nothing around out there where I lived. Yeah, it was real rural. It's raw. I was raw. Mom said, take the bat out there, and it was a big bat. It was my dad's bat. And she said, hit the rocks across the road. Well, I go up there swinging left-handed. I'm a right-handed thrower, and I didn't know, so my hands were right, and so I liked the way that my hands felt on the bat, so I swung left-handed. But when I went up into a game, the very first time I ever saw a ballpark, we drove up to Gideon, that little town of 900 people, which was 13 miles away, and I saw these big lights, and there's a lot of people out there, and Dad, hollered at this one guy to get me over and said, "Hey, can you get my son in a game?" And he knew the guy. His name was Bo Wingo. He was the sheriff of the town. And he was sitting there taking a drag off his cigarette, and he had Stetson hats on and his boots, and he was pretty much directing traffic from the bench. I thought it was kind of funny. So he said, "Yeah, I think I can do that, Alan." He said, "Hey, Mark, you want to hit?" And I paused, and I looked at this guy. He must have weighed 400 pounds, and I said, eventually that Marine "yes, sir" came out of my mouth. And I said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "Well, that's what we're going to do." So I went over to the other side, and they said, "You're going to hit in this order, and you're going to hit third." And then, so they were going to get me at this at bat. And there's this pitcher out there named Pedro, of all guy things. And I went up. Somebody said, "This guy named Pedro." What a classic name, And so anyway, this guy was a real good pitcher, I guess. And so I walk up to the plate, but this one guy on the end of the dugout said, "He's going to carve you up." I didn't know what that meant at age 6, because most of these guys were 8 and 9 years old, and I would soon find out. I said, later that is basically talking shit. So I walk up to the plate, and the umpire, I'm sitting there looking at him, he says, "Hey, get in the box." And I said, "Oh, okay." So I got in the box. You're sitting there looking at the umpire and the catcher for the very first time. That was the first time I ever been on a baseball field, ever. Wow. So I walked up, because I was in the first base side, and I walked up left-handed, and, Pedro lines up. He throws a strike, and then I switch over, and I look at him. I look at the umpire and say, "Hey, can I switch to the other side now?" He says, "Yeah, you can go over there." So I walk across the plate, and I still have the same batter's grip from a right-handed side, but with left-handed. So he throws another pitch, it's strike 2. And I look at the umpire, and I said, "I kind of like the other side." And so I went over and switched back, and everybody starts laughing and snickering, and I can hear them, And so I said, "Well, I kind of got a swing on this one if anything's going to happen at all." So I found out I actually swung at the ball he threw, and I felt contact, and all I did was took a right out of the box and ran right through first, and I got a hit. And that's funny. We were talking about this Pedro guy. 2 weeks ago, I found out who Pedro was, actually. His name's Terry Weldon. And
really?
So, yeah, it was pretty funny.
boyhood friend. Did he come to you? Did he find you, or he went back in records?
Yeah, he approached me because, he had done some stuff, and he saw that I had written a book, and so he contacted me, and I said, well, I finally found Pedro, and I asked him, I said, well, where'd that ball go? He said, that was the longest single I've ever seen in my life. He said, you didn't know how to run the bases, but you probably would have got a triple standing up easy. It rolled to the wall. I said, really? I didn't know where it went.
You remembered that all those years as well.
Yeah, he sure did. But the book, goes on, with high school and
Legion. Had he read the story in the book?
Sorry?
Had he read the story in the book?
He had. He had read the story, and he said, Mark hit it right on the nose, and then he came back and he wrote this thing about where it rolled to the wall, which I did not know. And but it carries you through age 6, and then you go into the next league and the next league, and then I sign out of high school, and and then I go to the big leagues pretty quick at age 20. I talk about separating yourself from the pack. It's all funny stuff though, because when you grow up out on a farm, it's real raw, and you think you're getting the right instruction, but you're really not as much as you think sometimes. And so the funny thing is also I knocked an old lady out in Cleveland, and that's called Mistake by the Lake, and there were 60,000 people at that game. They have that only twice a year, by the way, and that's when they draw for cars between innings, and there was no possible way anybody could throw a ball out of the dugout down at old municipal stadium, but I did find a way to do it. And I said it was just basically like there was goose shit on my fingers. But they filled the pen up immediately within about 6 seconds. It just came in like it was like the Alamo. I said all we had for ammunition was basically baseballs and candy bars and Copenhagen cans. So that's about all we had there.
Tell me something, Mark. Coming from, country background, what was some of your, once you got to the big leagues, what was some of your big city awakenings? Like your strangest big city awakenings that you could remember?
Great question, Wayne.
Well, actually, I thought Boston was pretty neat because I thought the fans were very in tune to that whole situation, and I noticed that they were pretty fair to the other side. New York didn't really bother me too much because I already expected that out of New York. I just kind of laughed at them, and I think I just pissed them off more than anything. I'm deaf in my one ear and I can't hear crap, and I just go out there smiling, and they'd say screw you, and I'd say, hey, yeah, it's all right, it's good, it's all good. But and you go to Atlanta. Atlanta was real boring. Nobody showed up at the game. Cleveland was mostly boring. Nobody showed up at the game unless they had a special night. Texas was Texas back then. You go to the West Coast, you go to Oakland. Not a lot of fans growing right there. Great team. You go to the Angels, they might draw a little bit more. Kansas City at the time was, it held 41,500, and all of a sudden, they're drawing, 30 to 35,000 a game because you're winning some ball games.
Did you
76?
Mark, may I ask you this? Did you,
yeah.
Because you played in Kansas City, did you ever get to meet or run into Sid Thrift at all?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, all the time. And I talked to his son now. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, good guy.
Sid was he did the Kansas City
Academy,
and White came out of there, and he also was a general manager at Pittsburgh back in the days of Van Slyke and Barry Bonds and what have you. Fascinating character. I got to meet him when I was the Topps rep, and befriended him, know his son Jim, and
Yes.
I'm wondering if you can pass on any stories about Sid Thrift.
Well, the one thing about the Royals Academy, when you had Ewing Kaufman, the owner at that point, he was kind of an innovative type of guy. He wasn't afraid to spend a little bit of his money that he'd made in the Marion Laboratories, and he wanted to get the best athletes out there. The academy was basically designed for, you look at fast twitch fiber guys that can run, guys that are athletes. That's the big word right there, was an athlete. And, it's like John or me, and you look at John and you look at me, and you say these guys were athletes at one time. We've gained a few pounds here and there, but you can tell that we knew what we were.
By the way you carry yourself, no question.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I'm told that John is back. How are you, sir?
I was always here.
Okay.
I've been listening to Country Talk for the past
okay.
15,
Well,
20 minutes,
then
I was actually listening to John talk. I don't know who was listening. I hope somebody's listening to stuff, but it's all it's all fun stuff.
I want completion.
John's got a book. I haven't read John's book, and he probably hasn't read mine.
When you came back?
Huh?
Who was there for you?
Who was there for me? Nobody.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
Nobody was there for me. When everything came down, nobody stepped up except the guys I played with that knew better. That knew better and knew the person I really was. And, it was like it was an uphill battle coming back. And you're asking for help and there's no help there. No one wants to talk to you, no one wants to listen to you. It's just not there. It's just not there. You're in it on your own, and you need to come back on your own. So you've got to deal with that, and you've got to get past all the demons that are in your head, telling you, are you going to make it back? Are you tough enough to be able to come back? Can you deal with this? Can you find out what really happened? So you got all this coming at you all at once. And to be able to waddle through it and then come out on the other side, like you just had a car wash, come out, it's pretty tough to do because a lot of guys would have offed themselves. They would have gotten rid of themselves. But I fought hard to get back, gain my reputation back. And it wasn't easy. Believe me, it was not easy. And, walking, coaching, Division I high school in San Diego, and you walk on the field and the guys are saying, oh, hold on to your wallet. Here comes D'Acquisto. You had to put up with that type of crap, and it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. And certain tone with some class. And at that particular point, when you handled it, you had to go up and say, that's, unfortunate, the way it happened.
But like they say, if it don't kill you, it makes you stronger, and you're obviously.
Oh yeah, I got stronger through the whole thing, but I had to go through it.
John,
and
you just hit me.
And I did.
Your brother was sick earlier in the year. I hope he's continuing to recover.
Yeah, he's recovering.
Oh, good. Good, because
doing fine. Yeah. Yes. Mhm. No, he's doing good. He's doing well.
That's nice. That's nice. Tell me about your position with baseball now and what you.
What
it's
I do
the
now
technical
is,
end of it, but it's incredibly fascinating because it leads to the rhythm of the game.
Right. What in the past 4 years, this is my 5th year coming up, is the field timing coordination, which has to do with pace of game in Major League Baseball. And we also, I work in the Arizona Fall League, which we also do the precursor tests of what we're going to do in the following years to come. So I'm involved in those heavily. Pitch counts, pitch clock. The pitch clock is starting to come into play. We're looking at 15 and 20 second pitch clocks We're also looking at 2:15, 2:25 for the pitchers to come into the game, 2:15 breaks in between the innings. So we're trying to find something that's going to speed up the game. Also, we're looking at the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning where, pitchers can come into games and limit the changes that are going to be made. That's a suggestion that was thrown out there. Things that are able to keep the continuity of the game in check, but yet to speed up the game to where we don't have 4.5, 5-hour games, because last year we were running on an average about 3.5 to 4 hours to 4.5 hours. And so that's one issue that we're dealing with. The second issue that I deal with is the replay issue. I'm the one guy that does both. I do field timing coordination, and I also do the replay tech, which is here in Arizona. And what that curtails is basically when the umpires are out, I go in very early, and I set up everything for the umpires, all the headsets, all the communications to New York, goes all the way back. So then during the game, when a replay is called for, the umpires have the communication to talk to New York so that they can determine what the outcome of the call is. It is a time-consuming portion of the job, but a very important issue to ascertain in baseball. And we're working on things to even sharpen that up to make things a lot more expedient than having 10 to 15 minute replays. Last year we did a lot better by having 2 to 3 minutes on the average, and things were speeding up a little bit more because we have more technical capabilities at our access. So being involved in both of those things has been a lot of fun, and it's great being back in baseball and being able to have these two positions and working for the network. And that's what I do.
Terrific. Is there anything on the horizon technologically that can help the umpires back in New York make the decisions faster? Or is there a way where they can go in early and say, well, there's no clear right or wrong? I mean, nothing is clear, so the original call should stand, and that conclusion might be at the forefront a little. Is that something you talked about?
If they can't see the call clearly, then the call that was made will stand. All right? So it becomes an inconclusive. Generally, when they want to see a call at first base, the ball has to be in the glove. So they've got cameras that show that the position of the ball in the glove and the foot hitting the bag in ultra slow motion, 11,000 frames a second. That technology was implemented 2 years ago. It has worked rather well. Any close calls at second base where a guy is sliding into the bag, slides off the bag, the gloves, as you notice, a lot of the infielders keep the gloves on the players when they slide into the bag, because if they slide off the bag and they have the glove on them, they can be called out and have been called out. Those are things that have been, now they're starting to make adjustments on the teams on plays like that. Rule 602, the collisions at home. They got a little looser on those, allowing guys to, let's say there's a box where they're in that will provide, if there is a collision, if the catcher has the ball first, then the catcher has the right of way. If it's a bang-bang play, then it can go either way. So, if you don't have the ball, then it's like a quarterback leaving the pocket. All right, you're going to get hit. All right, so things like that, it's judgment call on the umpires, but yet that's something that can be reviewed. So things like that have gone into play that have helped the game tremendously. And, we're probably going to see some new things next year that I can't really talk about right now. But that pitch, the one thing I can say is that the pitch clock is going to come into effect in the near future. But also they're looking really strongly at the strike zone. which is not going to eliminate a job for an umpire, but it's going to give us an idea, either because they use it now for training purposes for the umpires, but, you know, there's too many calls being missed, and they want to tighten that up for the, you know, for play to get a little more even on the playing field, especially at balls and strikes.
Have things changed that much with the umpires that they always have, when you pitch, that they always seem to have their own strike zone and
yeah, they did.
almost out a game based on who the umpire was back then?
Yeah, you've got different guys. It used to be American League, National League. Now they're all blended all into one. So you still got guys that run to the American League, National League strike zones, the high strike zone versus low strike zone. And, you know, they're calling strikes that are below the kneecap now. And that's the strike zone, below the kneecap to the chest, you know, to the lettering. And so you look at that and you say, well, now they want to increase that strike zone a little bit to above the letters. And, you know, the high strike, a lot of theories and methodologies of the teams now are 0-2. They're either going with a drop a curveball in the dirt, or they're going with a high heat. And so those are two things that are being implemented to increase their strikeout. Well, the strike zone is going to be increased, so they might get a little more strikeouts with that, and then hitters are going to start chasing, and then you have things changing. So things like that are implemented when
back and forth,
you know,
right?
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, when you look at things like that, it's always going to change the game to some degree, but always remember, pitchers will make the adjustments because they hold the ball. They hold the ball, they start the game. They will always make the adjustments when necessary. Hitters then will make the adjustments to the pitchers because they're throwing the ball to the hitter. And it always will go that way. It'll never change. So depending on how much of an adjustment needs to be made and change, will come to the hitter eventually. They'll make their adjustments too. It's going to take away the 2-iron swing that I call the low swing. When they start raising up the strike zone, it's going to take that out of play.
Gentlemen,
we're going to see a lot more guys chasing high heat.
We have another guest coming on. I want to ask you one question, John, and
yes.
I'm going to let Wayne introduce the new guest. I want to ask you about the rhythm that's set up between a pitcher and a catcher, and does that come naturally? Are there were there some catchers that you just hit it off with, some that you didn't at the beginning and then you did? Can you give us a little insight as to the partnership, if you will, between pitcher and catcher?
Well, there's always catchers that you work well with that know what you want to throw at certain times. All right? Me, I threw a fastball and I threw a hard slider, and that was basically it, and a decent curveball. I changed speeds when I didn't have a good fastball, so the catcher that knew that I didn't have a good fastball would implement that sinker changeup that I had. And I used to work really well with Dave Rader and Mike Sadek, both. I worked well with them. And then you got some veteran catchers that came in, like Kenny Rudolph, and that knew and felt that there were certain times that you needed to change things. Well, you've got to get in that rhythm. Once you get in that rhythm, and you don't even have to shake anybody off because you know he's going to call the pitch you want. And there'll be times you play games with the hitters where he'll shake his head, you know, make you shake your head, you know, things like that, or add one, subtract one, you know, if you want something else. But those types of guys like Tim McCarver and Steve Carlton is a good example. You know, you want to call them valet catchers. They go with a pitcher. Anytime a pitcher will throw, you'll see that catcher play. You know, and those rhythms, it's just because the pitcher feels comfortable with that catcher that he can say, I'm not going to shake anything off this guy calls because I know he's going to call my game. You get a catcher behind the plate that you're not confident enough in when you're pitching, and your rhythm is going to be offset tremendously. And Mark will agree with me on that. You know, you don't get a guy that you're clicking with and things go awry. It's tough. It's really tough.
Right. Wayne, please introduce the new guest, if you would.
Okay. Well, I will. So, gentlemen,
Thank you.
we have John Trinidad with us. John is the radio producer for the Oakland A's. Am I correct in that?
That's correct. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year, John.
Here we go.
We're here with John D'Acquisto and Mark Littell.
Well, I'm looking forward to spring training like everybody else. Just want to get this winter over with.
Yeah, there
What
you
is
go.
it, about 43 more days, but who's counting?
It starts sooner than that for us, believe me. It does.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh, yeah. We start setting everything up.
Let me ask you that first question. When you start a radio production for the year, what is it that, what's your first day like? What do you have? Planning meetings, review of last year, what worked, what didn't work. What's it like early on?
Well, with the upcoming season, there's a lot of turnover personnel-wise. And the A's have their Fan Fest coming up at Jack London Square next month. And so what I'll be doing is collecting, interviews and stuff from all the new guys and some of the returning guys to see what they have planned for this year.
Beautiful. And you get to find out who is cooperative, and I'm sure there are players that are unintentionally non-cooperative. They're just not communicative. And there are some that surprise you. Who on the current A's is really fun to work with and enjoyable?
Vogt has got to be number one. Stephen Vogt.
Okay. Catcher.
Yeah, he's real open to. He knows what you have a job to do, and he tries his best to help you get it done.
Okay. Is part of your trip the manager show as well, or is that done by other folks?
Well, what happens is Ken will always have his sit down with Bo Mel and send it to me, and if there, it's rare, but if he feels like if Bob or Ken like to want to make any changes to it, then we'll do that. Or, before the show or the night before, we'll talk about, some of the stuff we want Bob to address, and we take it from there. But Bob is, he's such a pro that he doesn't really need that much guidance.
Right, and he's open and communicative, and those guys have been doing it for so long together.
Yeah.
I must congratulate you or the A's on behalf of you, the production crew. Bill King, rest his soul, just made it into won the Ford Frick Award. Going to be a Hall of Famer. How cool is that?
It's a bittersweet thing, we all wish Bill could be here to accept, but for whatever reasons. They chose to do it at this time, and we look forward to that induction.
Nice. Do you have a Bill King story that you'd like to share?
When I think somebody asked me that, and when you have remember the '89 World Series,
very well,
at Candlestick Park, we had the earthquake. We figured out a way to get Bill on the air, and Bill became the lifeline for the Bay Area, explaining what has happened, because, remember the blackout, nobody really knew what was going on everywhere else. And, right. Mike Schweitzer, our longtime remote engineer, grabbed a phone book and handed it to Bill. And Bill started reading to people over the air what to do after an earthquake. Turn off your gas, and make sure, your stove is off and all this other stuff, that he became like a newsman.
Right.
He was totally unrattled.
Well, I'm the kind of producer that's totally rattled. So let me just say, John DeQuisto is leaving. We have more people coming in, more people going out. I want to thank John.
Happy New Year, guys. Take care.
Happy New Year, John. Thank you for coming by.
Oh, thanks for
Beautiful.
having me.
And
take care, Johnny. Mark, take care.
Okay. See you, John.
Okay. I want to shut up, and I want Wayne to have this thing run in the manner that he wants it to run for a few minutes.
Oh no, listen, you know me, I'm not a control freak. But listen, John, listen, I have a personal request. Okay? I want you to do everything within your power to make the road trip to New York in May this year.
Well, I would, if I have anything to say about it, it would be great. But
I'd rather see him out in San Francisco, for crying.
Who do I have to talk to? Who do I have to talk to? Should I quote Mr. Bean himself?
You probably want to
quote Gary Shandling on you guys.
I know you want to get together and do a culinary tour.
Listen.
And I'd like you included, John Trinidad. We have an A show going on the network. Ken was kind enough to guest a week or so ago, and
I saw that.
I don't know if you heard it. He has got those pipes. When you talk, it's like talking to a Lon Simmons. So you just in awe of what they say. It doesn't matter what they say; it's just the way they say it. And Ken's all class, as are you. You guys have a lot of fun. What consumes your time on the road?
Well, I think probably gathering information. I think we probably throw away 90% of what we gather to use on the air, but we got to have it because you don't know what's going to happen and what you're going to need.
Is that not a Bill King influence or what?
That's absolutely from the Bill King School of Broadcasting.
Okay.
And
I remind, Bill King had a book that could have been the size of an encyclopedia. He carried these books with notes, and it was ongoing. And I guess on the road he did. You guys just eat and update books and get information going.
And he had a big 3-ring binder, and he would clip stuff year round to use at the right moment at some point in the future.
Right. Was it true that baseball was his third best sport? I happen to think it was. Not taking anything at all away from his baseball skills. He was unbelievably great in football and basketball.
Well, it's such a subjective thing. I think it's safe to say nobody has done basketball the way he's done it. And as far as football goes,
football for that, who could say, John Madden, get your big butt off the field?
Absolutely, he was. Bill liked to say he was painting a picture with words.
Right.
And, you could see the game on the radio.
Right.
And Bill really, as far as his baseball goes, he and Lon, there was nobody you wanted to listen to if the game was lousy. Or
good. I mean, those guys were terrific.
Anybody will tell you that great game's easy to do, but when the game is lousy is when you earn your money.
Right.
those guys really went, to the grindstone on those games.
John, do they put you on the air once in a while? I mean, just rain delays, chats. Do you guys?
Well, when Lon and Bill were there, they would take calls on rain delays, and it'd be interesting to see, what they would do nowadays with all these instant replays. Because you got to fill that time.
That would drive Bill. The rhythm of the game, we touched about that with John DeQuisto, and I don't think there's a way to make it perfect, but at least you could see they're working on it, and it's Ken himself said it's an adjustment. No question about it. There are times that
I wish baseball did a better job of explaining the mechanics of it. Like, I don't think people know who the replay official even is.
Back in New York, you mean?
Yeah. If the call is being made, it'd be nice to know who's making that call.
Maybe they're worried about death threats. No, I'm just kidding. But it's funny. You just touched on something about, it's important to have a good radio announcer, especially if there's a bad game. It's amazing when I think about New York, which I would have to say we're the biggest market, and the radio, the announcers for both the Yankees and the Mets, to me, are really, really lacking, to say the least.
Radio.
I don't know.
You're not talking radio announcers, are you?
Yeah, Howie and Josh aren't too bad. Sterling and
I hear Damon Runyon in the background. It could be
Yes. We got
Sterling.
It could be Al Blumkin, the esteemed. Let me tell you, Al Blumkin is the old reliable Tommy Heinrich of the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. If you haven't met Alan Blumkin, John Trinidad, and I think Country is still with
Alan.
I'm listening. Some good stuff here. That's good.
Oh,
okay.
I think the Yankees made a conscious effort that they want their radio broadcast to be, quote unquote, a homer show, where the announcers root for the team.
It's beyond that, though. It's really he's 78, 79 years old. He can't see past his computer there, and what can I tell you?
Well, let me tell you something. This week they had Sterling on FAN. I think maybe because Mike, what's his face? Not Mike Francesa was on vacation.
Yeah.
So they moved Joe and Evan up to his spot, and they had John Sterling on. And, I do a lot of driving for my job, and so I'm flicking back and forth between sports radio and news radio. I mean, and he was absolutely horrendous. He was terrible. But I have to say, I'll tell you what, though. I listened. I worked a noon to 8:30 shift from June to November, so I listened to a lot of baseball on the radio because I worked way past 8:30 a lot of nights. And I'm sorry, but I think they were both equally bad in their own way. Okay, it's like I found
Howie Rose and Josh. You don't put those two in that category, do you?
Josh Lewin.
Yeah. I found myself. I found Howie to be a little obnoxious. I find John Sterling and Susan Waldman to be ridiculous, but Howie I found to be obnoxious. Just and this, like I say, I listened to a lot of radio this summer, and I really, I listened to more baseball on radio than I probably have in in years since I had the transistor radio under my pillow. So
it's just a matter of taste, you know. If it's not your cup of tea, that's just the way it goes. You know, look at all the criticism Joe Buck takes every time he calls a game. One of the fans say, "Oh, he's rooting for the other team." So he's like in a situation where he can't win. He's doing a national broadcast, but somebody is going to say, "Oh, he's rooting for the other team."
There's a Facebook site called I Hate Joe Buck.
Yeah.
I'm not on it, but
I'm sure there's t-shirts.
Somebody posted on that. Some Facebook friend of mine posted to that one day. That's how I found out.
Some weeks ago, they showed Jack Buck and Vin Scully with their shirts off announcing a game out in, I want to say it was the old Sportsman's Ball.
You're thinking of Harry Carey.
Well, it was Harry Carey, and all that.
Bill King would have Speedo shorts on. He'd take off. He'd be hot in the booth.
Right.
Yeah,
Take
off
and
his pants, and he'd be in Speedo shorts.
You might see Bob Uecker tanning himself out in the bleachers doing a game.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
So
it's a wonderful.
Hey, Alan.
What do you
Alan,
guys do to Jones?
Wait, Ralph, hold on one minute. Alan,
right.
Since I have you here, I have a leftover trivia question for you. Are you up for it?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, okay. Since 1894, only 16 major leaguers have hit 4 home runs in a single game. Name the 6 players in the 1946 through 1969 era who hit 4 homers on a single day. Of those 6, name 2 who also hit 3 homers in a single game at least once. And finally, of the 6, name the 2 who hit their 4 homers in consecutive at-bats. Now, if you need me to break it down one by one again, like the 3 different parts of the question, you let me know. So first, let's go with the 6 who hit 4 home runs in a game from 46 through 69.
Okay, you had Hodges.
Snyder.
No, Snyder never. The Hodges, Adcock, and Colavito, Mays.
Mays, yes.
Dick Snyder? No.
Mantle never did it. Snyder. Those are the only 4. Who else do they have listed?
Can I make a guess?
It's Pat.
Sure.
Sure.
Pat Seary.
Pat Seary.
Did Killebrew do it?
No, it wasn't Killebrew. And the 6th one is Charlie Maxwell, and he actually did it in 59. Okay, so
game.
Now part 2.
4 home runs in a game.
No, well maybe it was in a single day. He said a single day.
It was a doubleheader.
Okay, single day. So it's a trick question. There we go. Okay, now who also?
Was it Dale Long? Did he hit a bunch of home runs?
Usually
no, Dale Long, I believe, had like a lot of consecutive grand slams. Okay.
Tied by Don Mattingly.
Yes.
And Griffey Jr.
Yes. Okay, now name the 2 who also hit. Name the 2 who also hit 3 homers in a single game at least once.
Same era.
There's a very long distance streak.
Whoa.
Probably Mays.
Mays was 1.
Tony Oliva?
No, it's from the same list. It's from the same list.
Oh, same list. Okay.
Hodges?
No, it was Colavito. Okay, and then finally, of the 6, name the 2 who hit their 4 homers in consecutive at bats.
Well, I think Willie was 1.
Well, Colavito did.
Colavito did, and
Hodges.
No, and the other one was Maxwell. And here I see he added another message where he indicates that Maxwell hit his 4 homers during a Sunday doubleheader.
Yeah.
And first one in his final at bat of Game 1, right? And then 3 in a row in his first 3 at bats in Game 2.
Sam usually with 5 in a doubleheader in 1954 off the Giants.
Right.
Was
Guys,
it
I'm going to
against the
run.
Dodgers or against
I'm
the
going to
Giants?
toast with my wife here a little bit.
Okay. Hey, Mark, thank you very much for coming on.
Happy New
I
Year,
enjoyed
Mark.
it, as always.
I love it.
Okay. Happy New Year. Enjoy.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Happy
Mark.
New Year, you guys, too. All right.
Happy
Bye-bye.
New
Talk
Year.
soon.
Okay. Hey, Wayne, do we know if any of those 4 homer guys got them off the same pitcher?
No. Those days,
if
no.
they did or they didn't?
No, they did not. They did not. No pitcher gave up 4. The pitchers who gave up 4 home runs in an inning, but no pitchers gave up 4 home runs in a game to a particular guy.
Okay.
Yeah, the Yankees, several years ago, they had a pitcher who was there for about a week named Chase Wright, who won over the Memorial Day week and served up 4 straight home runs to in Fenway Park.
Right. Hey, guys, I have a proposition for all of baseball. The name trivia, when you talk about it should be changed. It should be called minutia. Simply information. Calling it trivia trivializes it.
No, there's a big difference between trivia and minutia.
Pardon me?
There's a big difference between trivia and minutia.
Well, trivia almost sounds
trivia
like
can be answered. Minutia can't be, basically.
Okay.
It's only trivia because it's not relevant immediately, but at some point it will be.
Right.
And by the way, Ralph, David and I have decided to do the Phillies on Thursday.
Oh, okay, good. The David you're talking about is the
David Nemec.
Very, very famous author. I just sometimes between Peter Golenbach and the guests that come on, and now David Nemec, we are just blessed. And you guys do a terrific job. You recently did the Red Sox. You did the Reds themselves, and there's just there's very little trivia to it. Let's put it that way. So, anyway, I don't mean to kick baseball trivia in any way, but I wish it could have been named something different. Just, it's more serious. To a baseball fan, any of these facts are incredibly serious. And we're a bunch of cuckoos.
Well, you can call them fun facts. Some guys call them fun facts.
Yes.
There you go.
Down his sites that I'm on. The Pirates, Corsair Tales, Yankee Nostalgia. There's a We Remember. Yeah, where is he now? So he put down Joe Pepitone. Where is he now? I said, not far enough away.
Hey, while I got you here, John, let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Is any trade rumblings, any kind of personnel rumblings coming from the A's?
I would not be privy to that. But our history has always been kind of a low-key pull the trigger without any warning. So, it's rare that you would get, warning on any player moves.
Okay. Right. According to, according to the buzz, it says that they were actually hot and heavy in on Encarnacion. Was there do you know if there was any truth to that rumor?
The only information I have on that rumor is supposedly the A's were offering 2 years, and he has his heart set on 3 years. And the A's don't apparently or supposedly do not like 3-year deals.
Right, yes. I heard actually they offered him 2 years, but they offered him $50 million for the 2 years.
Yeah, he would have made more in the 2 than he would have. He would have made more in the 2 per year than he would have made here in the 3 year.
Yeah,
but the thing is, he would have been a free agent.
Spread out a little bit.
Yeah, but you know what it is? He would have been a free agent at the age of 36, so I guess he wasn't as sure as his earning power. And I also read that the West Coast was really not, what wasn't a preference. It was less than a preference for him, I should say. Not even a preference. He didn't want to be that far away from his family. He wanted to stay closer east.
Some guys, that's a big factor. They don't want, they don't want to play in the Pacific time zone.
Yeah. Well, it was, it had to do with family. I guess he felt as though, it would be more difficult to see his family during the season besides, home games. So, I mean,
that cuts both ways. Guys, only play on the West Coast because their families are here.
Right.
We had Coco, and a big factor was his family's in California.
Right. Yes. Actually, I remember when the Yankees signed Sabathia, I didn't expect it was going to happen, and basically, they had one of the reasons why they had to outbid everybody by a lot was because he wanted to stay on the West Coast. He was in Cleveland, and then Milwaukee, but yes.
The funny thing about that is whenever we see Sabathia in Oakland, he has so many friends and family at the game that it's a big distraction to him, and he gets rocked.
That's interesting. Yeah.
So it just depends on a guy's mindset. Some guys don't want to be near home. Some guys want to be near home.
Right. I thought it might be a natural that Richie Rollins would sign with the A's.
You mean Jimmy Rollins?
Well, Jimmy Rollins, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh God! Now somebody named Rich Rollins is gonna go.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Third baseman for the Minnesota Twins in the '60s.
Yes.
Yes.
Along with Rich Allen as well as and Costco and
Andy Costco, yeah.
Yeah.
It would have been fun to see Day-Roll every day.
He can't say the Yankees didn't do too much.
There's a lot of controversy, John, now over Cespedes. Tell me the kind of teammate he was when he was with the A's, and did he fall out of favor, or was it his choice to move on?
I never heard anything bad about him. All the guys loved him. And, he was one of those guys, if he was taking BP, the place would stop to watch his BP.
Right.
Just a phenomenal physical specimen. And, as far as I've known, a team guy.
Good to hear.
Oh,
as a Mets fan.
Ralph?
Yes, sir.
Ralph, I got some bad news. Rich Rollins of the formerly of the Minnesota Twins, among other teams. No, he's still alive. But another one to watch the obituaries. I'm going to tell you guys a story real quick. Unfortunately, I already told it earlier when we had Mark and John on. But Ralph once incorrectly called Ron Chandler Gary Shandling on a show. And the very next day, Gary Shandling was dead. So already once tonight, he already called Craig Steer, my co-host, Craig Spear. So I said, now tomorrow, check the obituary. Somebody named Spear is going to be dead, and now I'm totally fearful of Mr. Rollins. Too bad he's
where you can be alerted to any Google News on any website.
Yes, yeah.
So,
Unfortunately,
that's almost
Rollins
too easy.
Unfortunately, Mr. Rollins is too old to garner any good odds on a death pool. So,
no, but he'd be the kind of guy that if I were the A's, I'd love to have hanging around, either to help mentor guys, come off the bench. Future coach, this, that, and the other, a local.
You talking about Jimmy Rollins now?
Right.
Yes, now I think he missed it. I think he went back to Jimmy. I was talking about Rich, but that's okay.
We're still talking about Gary Shanley.
And funny part is, the Rollins I don't even know his name at this point, who went to Encinal High School in Alameda. He has a younger brother who I don't know if he made it to the majors or not, but the best athlete in the family is a sister who was a gymnastics or swimming or this, that, and the other thing, supposedly. So Alameda is replete with good baseball history. Willie Stargell played at Encinal. Bill Rigney was from Alameda.
You got
and many others.
Billy Martin.
Yes, Kurt played back with.
Well, I mean, listen, if you include the whole area, I mean, Joe D was from San Francisco.
Oh yeah.
We had
Martinez.
Wyman's High School, which produced, among others, Frank Robinson and Vader Pinson and I think Kurt Flood and the basketball player.
The three of them
Russell.
for one season played in the same outfield. Kurt Flood, Frank Robinson, and McClymont.
Yeah,
Jesse Gunn
was
a catcher.
came up through the Red System. And he couldn't be out Pinson, so they traded him to the Cardinals for 3 totally nondescript pitchers.
Right.
After 57, yeah.
And ball players all over don't have any idea who this guy is and his importance in terms of what he did leading to free agency. Another guy dies much too young. Special this year has been unreal in terms of losing folks. Muhammad Ali, Arnold Palmer, Mose Allison, the late Mr. Rollins tomorrow morning. A whole bunch of folks.
Come on.
and some guy named Spear.
And some guy named Spear. Please keep it far away. Death, maybe in 2017, will rear its ugly head less of the time. It's been.
In 2017, death will probably rear its ugly head just as much. I think a lot of it has to do with there's a number. I think there's two reasons. There is the proliferation of social media. I mean, it just has exploded. It's out of control, and you know what? I don't think control is going to be reined in anytime soon. That's number one. Number two, you look at a lot of celebrity deaths in 2016. A lot of them were people that had drug histories in their past. And a lot of them, their drugs of choice were cocaine or crack, just some type of cocaine-based drug, which, can very well, it's proven that can, do permanent damage to the heart. And of course, there were people, there were other related things. I mean, Prince, I mean,
a lot of his prescription, yeah.
Yes.
Like to feel good.
So I tell you what, you can't blame and everybody says, 2016. This is what this has been happening. We've had celebrities dying every year. You can, if you can go back every year, if you can go on Google, celebrity deaths for 16, 15, 14, you could just keep going back. And there's going to be a huge number of deaths. And that's just the way life is.
You guys have about 14 minutes to survive this year. Ralph and I have like 3 hours. We have 3 hours to survive this year.
Oh, it's about time the odds are in my favor.
2 years Far East at 8 o'clock in the morning our time here.
Yeah. And you know what?
And in Australia.
And don't forget.
New Zealand, it's been New Year's for hours
8 o'clock in the morning Eastern.
Yes. And listen, 44 years ago today, talk about a celebrity death. You know, you had Clemente. And to me,
that's been all over Facebook today.
Yes, absolutely. You know, I mean, you think about it, like, talk about a tragic death.
Magnanimous guy was doing this for charity.
He was on his way to Nicaragua.
Right.
Yes. And who was the guy? And there was another guy from the Pirates with him that had to get off the plane because they had too much stuff, and the plane was overloaded. That was.
Now that you mention it, is there anybody in sports today that you could imagine would go on a mission of mercy like that? I mean, would fill up a plane with supplies and stuff.
One of my Facebook friends is one of his sons, Luis, and every year on this day, he and his family, including Clemente's widow, who is still around, go to the beach of where the plane crashed, and they have a ceremony. He posted it live on Facebook today.
Wow. But I can't think of one guy in today's world who would go into his own pocket, fill up a plane with supplies, and go on a mission of mercy like that.
Yeah, that's unheard of. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Manny Ramirez.
Was that who it was?
No. Alan was making a joke.
Oh, I'm thinking of another Ramirez that played with the Pirates. No, not Manny Ramirez. It wouldn't be that, and it wouldn't be the aforementioned Pepitone but what can you say? This is.
I put down for Pepitone. He was a classic embodiment of a $1 million talent and a 10-cent head.
Yeah.
But he had a number of them back then. Benny McLean was another one. Sam McDowell. I think Sam McDowell was the original one that they coined that phrase on.
Tom Walker.
Yeah, Tom Walker. Father of Neil.
Tom Walker, who is actually Neil Walker's father. Yes. Yeah. He was the guy that, because of the plane's weight load, and it's I'm reading it now. It says he wanted Walker, who was single, to go enjoy New Year's. So, just crazy.
Yes.
Talk about a selfless guy.
Well, Alan, you're a Pittsburgh fan, and Wayne, you just recently had Rick Peterson on, whose dad was a catcher with the Pirates in the 50s.
Martin Peterson.
Right.
Yes.
He was a GM for a while, too.
He was indeed. Yeah. And his kid has become quite a coach and quite a guru. I didn't hear the interview. Did you talk about his days with the A's, Wayne?
Yeah, we did. It was the show wasn't that long. He talked a lot about his philosophies and things like that. But what had happened is actually, he was quite successful with the A's, and what he said was that he was going through a divorce, and he said he went to Billy Beane, and he told Billy Beane, he says, listen, I got to get to the East Coast, and Billy told him, well, we're not going to release you, and and he said, "Listen, I'm not talking to you as a coach. I'm talking to you as a father." And Bean had gone through his own, his own visitation situation.
Right.
I'll name it that, and they found him a place with the Mets.
You want a quick Rick Peterson story?
Please.
Absolutely.
Rick Peterson, when he was here with the A's, we used to tease him constantly because no matter how hot it was, we could be playing a 110-degree game, he'd wear his jacket. And the A's jackets that season were made for night games. And no matter how hot it was, he'd wear that jacket. And finally, Ray Fosse asked him, "Why are you constantly wearing that jacket no matter how hot it is?" And he pulled out all these notes from the pockets, and he's constantly got notes that he's referring to all the time that he has to keep in his jacket.
It's like Buck Showalter.
So everyone would be dying from the heat, and he'd have his jacket on.
Yeah, when Buck Showalter manages a team, it takes people 3 years to figure out what his number is.
John, were you around when Harry Dorfman was a consultant as a pitching guru for the A's?
That name is not ringing a bell with me.
Okay, it was about the time with Van Poppel and those guys. And
yeah,
I think
I was around then, but that name does not ring a bell with me.
Okay, well, again, another fellow I remember from my Tops days, and
Van Poppel that's kind of a bummer because that kid had all the potential in the world, but
right.
his father, I believe, insisted that he sign a major league contract instead of a minor league contract.
Yes. I was about to say, and it didn't give him enough time to develop.
Yeah.
I think
yeah,
there were 2 or 3 of them that.
David Clyde was notorious. Texas Rangers signed him. He's like 18 years old. They threw him into the majors right away, and he couldn't do very much.
That was kind of a publicity,
right?
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. You see, the difference with Van Poppel was that his father insisted he signed a major league contract, and after three years, if he wasn't in the major leagues, he would be subject to the Rule 5 draft, or they'd have to place him on waivers. I forgot exactly what the rule was, but the bottom line is, the A's had to have him on the major league roster, or they can lose him, or they would lose him. So that was.
I remember the Giants in the early years. Bob Garibaldi was one. Even Joey Malfitano had to stay on the major league roster.
Paul Gill.
There was that. There
might be a period from 53 to 57. They all had to stay. If they got paid over a bonus over $4,000, they had to be on the major league roster for 2 years. That whole group for 5 years.
Koufax qualified for
Koufax
that as well.
Koufax, yes, he did.
Only 3 that ever really made it.
Hey, I just thought of somebody who would fit that Clemente charitable mode. Albert Pujols would take care of stuff like that.
Right, perhaps.
Yeah, I agree.
Kershaw.
Never heard anything bad about him.
Yeah, Clayton Kershaw does a lot of charity work.
Yeah, I know Albert flies plane loads of shoes back to the Dominican several times a year.
Oh, for kids and what have you.
Yeah, baseball gear and stuff.
What about? All right, was it Albert Pujols or was it Juan Gonzalez who married a woman who had a son with Down syndrome?
That I don't know.
So if it wasn't Albert, it might have been Juan Gonzalez. I do remember reading a story like that.
The story I remember was with Rex Hudler, whose son was born with Down syndrome, and he was such a positive guy. hope the kid is still around.
Carl Erskine's.
Have you ever had Rex Hudler on the show?
I haven't.
Syndrome, yeah.
My God,
He is the world's greatest guest on any radio show. You got to get him.
Okay.
He is so upbeat, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I know. He would not look at this thing as a negative, and his son was happy, and he looked at. Hank Greenwald was another one whose son or daughter, if I remember correctly, suffered from that. And there are people that are courageous that show us through things, and there are things we just don't hear about people as well. So in answer to the question, I'm sure there must be, hopefully, just thinking about the world as it is, and baseball is such a microcosm, there should be somebody that would do something like this. And
yeah, I just wish you'd hear.
Yeah.
You know what it is? I'll tell you why we don't know who it is. Because someone like that, when they do something charitable like that, they don't, someone who's truly charitable, who's truly doing it from the heart, is doing it without publicity.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
there was a joke going around the Yankees that Mariano Rivera would hit up his teammates all the time for donations to build a church back in his hometown. Nobody, and guys would say, "Well, how many churches do you guys have by now?"
Well, kind of reminds me of a guy I used to work with whose grandmother died 4 times in 1 year. But you know what? I have to say, thinking about it and thinking about like guys that I know have done things in their towns. Mariano Rivera is someone who might come to mind. Another one who's done a lot, who's put a lot of money into his hometown back in the Dominican Republic, is Pedro Martinez.
Yeah, I can see that.
So, yeah.
And Marichal, in his way, has done an awful lot for his
Marichal is a pioneer.
Didn't Juan serve as in the government there?
Might have. He might have been in charge of cockfighting.
Probably the old congressman, the old second baseman from the Indians in the 50s, became the mayor of Veracruz in Mexico.
Yeah.
Bobby Avila?
Yeah.
I thought he was Cuban.
No, he's Mexican.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Been wrong before. God knows.
Well, guys, you're about a minute from midnight, so I'm going to say Happy New Year to you all.
I tell you, yes, I was about to say, actually, I believe my microwave just said midnight, but I'm waiting for the exact time to change on my computer because that's the one that's hooked up to the network. But yes, Happy New Year. At least it is. It's New Year's for Alan and I, for you and Ralph. Listen, you got,
It will be, I was born in New York, so it's
I have 3 hours
to this day.
All the best to you guys.
Okay,
thank you very much, all of you, for being here. John, I hope you'll come on the A show that we're doing on the network, and you can update us as to what's going on as we get closer to spring training.
If I got something good for you guys, I'll check in.
That'd be great.
John,
right.
New York in May.
I'll do my best.
New York. This is going to be my last year in New York.
Okay.
Otherwise, going forward, it'll have to be. I'll be moving to Orlando. I'll have to meet you in Tampa.
All right.
Okay. All right. Thanks
guys.
for coming on, John, and Happy New Year. Have a great night.
All right, everybody.
Okay,
you want to close it, Wayne?
I tell you what, let's give it 15 more minutes. I did tell everybody we'd be on till 12:15. Just in case someone else wants to call in. I mean, there's always something going on.
You guys want to take it, you and Alan, so I don't have to hear my voice. How about that?
You don't want to hear your voice.
Could you imagine what it's come to? on this day, you're going to have a record of this. I don't want to hear my voice on this day, this moment. It's a yunta, for Christ's sake. We got a new...
blowing firecrackers out across the street already here.
Right.
Yeah,
so,
over here too, actually. And then I'm getting I'm getting text messages with with fireworks in it, So
well, let's call it a night.
I suggest that we do that. And
okay, well, that's fine. You know what? I'll just post on the group that the show is over, and we'll go from there. So, anyway,
thank you, and
thank you, Alan. Thank you
for
calling in. We'll talk. Have a good night, and have a great New Year, everybody. Bye bye.
Okay, you too.
All right.
Bye bye.
I'm going to hit the button. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.